Hey everyone, and thanks for joining us today. BIM projects are often under a lot of pressure the moment they start changing, and we know they always change at some point, that's the reality. New information comes in, coordination issues pile up, and the tools that were supposed to help you suddenly feel like they're slowing you down. This update is Qonic's answer to that. We have 4 focused improvements, each one designed to keep you moving when a project gets complex. I'm Barbara, and together with Jacob we will show you everything new in Qonic this month. We also have a special guest today. Dieter will join us to talk through one of the bigger additions in this release, but more on that in a moment. Let's get into it. Verifying clearances is usually a bottleneck. You end up switching views, checking drawings. The point-to-point measure fixes this. Just snap to any 2 vertices or edges and Qonic gives you the precise 3D distance. It's accurate and fast, and it keeps you right inside the model. Jacob, can you walk us through how this works?
Yeah. So Qonic comes with a new point-to-point measurement tool, which can be found at the bottom toolbar here. It basically allows you to select 2 objects and find the nearest distance between them. So for example, these 2 objects here, the nearest distance between them is 5.2 meters and is found at this point here. As soon as I select something new, my oldest selection will be removed from the selection and the new one will be added to it. So you can basically makes it really quite easy and straightforward to use. It also comes with a vertical distance mode. So let's say I want to know the distance between these 2 walls here. The shortest distance at this point is 17 meters. However, if I want to know the shortest vertical distance, I can toggle this right here, which shows me in this case there's 5.8 meters in between the bottom face of this wall and the top face of this wall. Now, what if you want to know, for example, the distance between the top face of this slab and the slab below it? Well, the point-to-point measurement can also help you by actually using the deep select mode within Qonic. So again, the deep select mode allows you to select faces, edges, and vertices, which can then again be used as input for this point-to-point measurement tool. So point-to-point measure between this face, in this case would be 3.2 meters. This now also comes with a new option within the deep select mode, which is the option to select vertices, which previously wasn't possible. So within deep select, I can see when I hover over a face, it gets highlighted. Same with edges. And now with this newest release, you can also select vertices, which is the end of an edge. So in this case, here I can see I've selected this one vertex. I can do the same for, let's say, this one. It shows me that the distance between these 2 vertices is 5 meters. In addition to that, we've also now included absolute positioning of vertices. So when I select a vertex, I can actually open the inspect panel and find their X, Y, and Z coordinates displayed here in the inspect panel.
Great, that's a huge win because you aren't wasting time with extra views or external tools, but you stay in the model and get the exact number you need. Okay, next up, when you export an IFC file, it already contains embedded data, like areas, volumes, and lengths. We've made that information instantly accessible the moment you import your file.
Yes, so Qonic now comes with built-in base quantities, IFC base quantities, which can now be attached to objects. So for example, I focused here on the walls of the ground floor of this one building here. Let me just select all of them and show you again the inspect panel to show all of their properties and attributes. I can now actually add these base quantities as properties or as attributes to these walls. So under adding a new property, there's now this new library basically showing you the IFC base quantities, which in this case only shows me the wall base quantities because I only have selected walls. And I can choose to attach any of these base quantities individually or just do the entire thing. I'll just select all of the base quantities applicable to walls, add them, and they will now be automatically calculated for us and displayed in the inspect panel. So for example, for this particular wall here, I can now find all of its base quantities like gross footprint area, gross side area, and so on, all automatically calculated based on the geometry in the model. I can also actually display its display some visual feedback. I can do that using the report panel. So I will open the report panel here. And actually I've set it up so that it also shows me these base quantities as extra columns in my report. And let's again keep it simple. I'll focus on one single wall to make it very visual. For this particular wall, I can now see indeed that, for example, the net side area is 16.2 square meters. And if I want to know exactly how this was calculated, I can click this little info icon to show me again this sort of blue outline, which shows me how exactly this area was calculated. So if I want to know the difference between the net and gross side area, I can visualize both of them to see what the difference is. For example, also for the footprint area, so the gross footprint area would be 2.3 square meters based on this blue outline, whereas the net footprint area would be 1.7 square meters because it took into account these two openings. Same goes for things like length, height, and so on. So it's all automatically calculated. This also means if I make a change to my geometry, that these values will be automatically updated and automatically adjusted to your new geometry.
Okay, next we saw that complex architecture like profiles or custom facades, they often demand more than standard extrusions. Well, with the loft geometry, you can finally connect two or more profiles, regardless the shape or the angle, and Qonic builds the bridge between them. And I love the feedback we've been getting since we teased this on LinkedIn. Someone said that this is the level of 3D precision the industry has been waiting for, and Jose Vargas wanted to know if these shapes carry data like diameter, length, and volume.
Yeah, so let me show this new loft tool in action, and I will use this little table as a little example. So let's say I want to remodel this table to get rid of these legs and basically make it a kind of a lofted shape. So I will remove the legs using deep select. And let me just copy this top part here a couple of times to serve as the basis for our loft tool. Before I do that, I will actually give it kind of an interesting shape. So let's give this the width of the foot of our table. Let's say something like this. And then this one here, we'll make it a bit narrower, like this. And now basically I can use any face or boundary as input for the loft tool. The loft tool can be found here at the toolbar under Create. And it basically allows you to select two or more consecutive faces or boundaries to be lofted between. So let's say this face here, then maybe this one, and then the bottom one of this cylinder here. So it creates this new lofted geometry with the name lofted, and which can also be quantified. So I can now say, for example, okay, what is the volume of this lofted geometry? It's not simply a mesh, it's an actual solid. So I can calculate the volume. I can calculate, let's say, the surface area. Maybe the height, for instance. This can all be calculated because we're working with solids and not just meshes. And then, of course, we can continue doing more operations with them. So, for example, I can choose to union this with the original objects here, and now it's actually part of the proper table itself. Okay, now before I hand over to Dieter, I want to give one small update as well in the Qonic dashboard. It's more of an aesthetic update for now, but let me show you what I mean. So I've made some changes in this model here. I've added some properties to the walls. I've modified this table. I can see here I have some unpublished changes. So let me review and publish, which takes me back to the project dashboard. And now you'll see actually that there's two separate buckets displayed for my project in the models tab here. On the one hand, there's a personal bucket, and then there's a project bucket. Basically, the idea is if you have personal changes, like in this case, I made changes to my Qonic Towers model, it will be automatically stored here in this separate personal bucket until I choose to push this to the project, which will then basically make it public to the rest of the project. So functionality-wise, nothing really changed here. It's more of an aesthetic update, which is part of a larger design exercise we're doing to include more standardized versioning workflows here. So I can choose to now publish this change, added base quantities, and now you'll see that this model is moved to my public project version.
Okay, thank you, Jacob. And then finally, we're ready to show you the feature you've been asking about, 4D planning. We've fully integrated it into the Qonic workflow, so your schedule and your model are finally in the same place. Dieter is here with us today to break this down. He's been testing this in the field, so he's the perfect person to explain why this is such a game changer for project coordination.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. Well, to open the wonderful world of 4D planning, there is a new icon on the top left. It's a planning panel that opens, and as you can see, we already created a first planning. It's a baseline planning. I'll open it, and you see that we have a Gantt chart, and we can play the sequence to visualize how we planned for this project that the structural works will be executed, sand line bricks, and then insulation windows, also the facade panels, and eventually all the finishing works. It's possible to pause the sequence and look into detail in the organization of the works. As you can see here, we have different colors. We have the successors colored in blue and the predecessors colored in orange, together with the elements of the active task in a transparent representation. This way we can look into detail if the sequence is correct or not. Well, now let's create a planning together. We first start from a browse panel. Here we can organize our structure of the elements part by part. The first one is the structural part. We organized all the objects by level, and there you can see the different element types by level. This is a starting point for creating a quick planning in Qonic. We open the planning panel, we create a new planning from preset, and we reuse that structure from the browse panel to create a planning. We organize the elements like, for example, first the piles, then footing, then a slab, wall, beam. And when the order is correct, we create a planning. And within a second, you'll see that there is a first planning created. And this time, we can play the sequence to see if everything is organized correct. After this first block, we'll continue with the second part. So we'll add from preset the sand line bricks. And as you can see, we have sand line bricks added to the planning. I'll reorganize. The planning and also the first part. So we already have two parts of the planning and continue with the other two. As you can see, we created 4 blocks. We only have to link them. So I'll create a link between the second part and the first part, the sand line bricks. I'll add a predecessor coming from the structure on the 13th floor. And this is all it takes to create a complete planning. We can play again and can see that we, in a quick way, created the planning to show and discuss with the team. Thank you.
Thank you, Dieter. It's great to see that 4D planning actually fits into a real project workflow in Qonic and not just as a visualization tool. Okay, so we had 4 features and 1 goal, keeping your workflow unified. You can try them all right now at app.qonic.com, and you don't have to install anything, you can start right there in your browser. If you've got any ideas on how we can make things even better, leave a comment because we really want to hear them. So thanks for watching and see you next time.